So check it out, bro. We were going through your podcast application, and like I said, I noticed that you've got your show and you're getting started. And you put on here that the biggest best outcome for you would be to gain exposure for your podcast, as well as to be able to give entrepreneurial spirit to others, which is awesome, and encourage the younger generations to pursue business. That's what we're all about for sure. And but we wanted to kind of approach this a little bit differently with you because you are just getting started, and we would love to essentially help you get started, offer any kind of assistance and wisdom we have in terms of marketing your podcast, because I know that that's something that's important to you, being able to market your podcast, as well as what you put on here, build yourself as a public figure. So we kind of wanted to use this opportunity to really just make ourselves available to you. And then what we were going to do on the podcast side is we have something we call kind of like a market spotlight episode. And really, like, all this is a commercial for your show or for whatever it is you're doing. We'll literally create this advertisement for you. And if you're cool with this, what we'd like to do is run one of these episodes with you and essentially catch a snapshot of where you are today, and then kind of like what your goals are with the podcast. And then we'll actually reconvene with you in 6 months, 12 months or something down the line, and then do a follow-up episode and kind of bring it all together. Is that something that you'd be interested in?
Yeah, that would be awesome. That sounds great.
Cool, man.
Well, and here's where we are too, like, cause you're at the beginning of a long, awesome, cool, crazy, challenging journey, right? Of being an entrepreneur for the next 100 years, right?
Yeah.
Like, so what's gonna happen so I have 21-year-old, one that's about to turn 20, and one that's 18 kids. So and they're not entrepreneurial at all. So
he looks young, but he's old as fuck, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
Except for my youngest one's actually entrepreneurial but in a different way. But what I want to say is this: right now, like, you're fortunate you're going to capture a snapshot of where you are right now, and as you look back, it's really hard to close the gap and understand how far you've come. And at your age, you're going to come so far in a year, completely unrecognizable, because, you just already know, the year abroad, completely different person. You come home, you go to school, you come home now, and you're like, wow, like, I'm kind of a different person than the last time I lived in this house for this long, right? Does that feel accurate?
Yeah, for sure.
So a year from now, as an entrepreneur, like, digging in with your podcast, your journey, you're going to be a whole next level. And if you surround yourself with other rising entrepreneurs and other people that are doing things on big levels, that amount is going to be exponential. So capturing where you are helps you understand how far you've gone, which helps you take bigger leaps and bounds in the years forward. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing about it is the reason that we do this is it's actually psychologically, it's going to help you step into who you are even more. Because when we make public declarations of who we are and where we're going, law of consistency says we want to stay consistent with that, right? And so when we make these like, this is where I am, this is where I'm going, and we kind of spotlight on it, it helps give you some subconscious internal drive to really achieve that and go there. And if you know that we're going to be revisiting, so it's a really cool, like, that's where I come from. I come from the psychology and story side of scaling, saving and scaling your business. Corey comes from the processes and system side of scaling and saving your business. And so we bring together varied experience with a lot of different things as far as growth in business and marketing. So it's intriguing for us to have an opportunity to meet with a younger entrepreneur who's trying to do big things. And so it's just, for us, that's where we're coming from, and we want to see you do big things. I'm gonna just shut up for a minute now and let you go, Corey.
Yeah, man. No, that's awesome, dude. So look, it's 9:15 right now. We have a hard stop at 10 o'clock. So let's spend 15 minutes, bro, if you don't mind. We're just gonna ask you some questions and kind of get like I said, a little snapshot of where you're at right now and what your drive is. And then
Yeah, yeah, for
if
sure.
there's anything too that we can help you with, if you have questions when it comes to marketing your podcast or advertising or how you can get, more people on your show or whatever it might be, by all means, let those come through. So if you don't mind though, to just get started, bro, like explain to me why a podcast? Why did you decide to start doing this, and what do you hope to gain out of this?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would consider myself more of an introvert for sure. But I've always liked telling stories. And I always felt like in my groups and my friend groups in different places, like that was kind of always my niche, was being funny and telling people stories. And for me, I've always been looking kind of for the new thing. What is up and coming? What is something that I would enjoy starting or being a part of? So me and my roommate were just like sitting around one day, and we were with our friends, and they were you guys just bounce off each other. Like, your relationship is just funny. And so, we're in college and we have all these funny stories and experiences. And I'm like, we were sitting there and I was like, dude, we should start a podcast. Because I think nowadays, in one of my episodes, we talked about it. And I'm like, you meet someone that you haven't seen in 3 years and you ask them, oh, have you started a podcast? And it's just like, it's become such a norm. And I think it's such a cool way, especially for people my age or, in my like age range, that they're starting to kind of get to that age where they want to listen to podcasts. They want to, whether it be something that's funny, something that fills their time during the workday, if they want to learn something. And so, we kind of explored our different options of how we could do this. People have blogs, vlogs, YouTube channels. And we just decided that, a podcast would probably be the best outlet in terms of being able to tell our stories and just have people enjoy it, kind of hear a little inside scoop of what life is like. And I did my research. I looked on, most podcast platforms, and there really was nothing like the podcast that we have. At first I started with the names, and I just like, it kind of baffled me that wasn't already a thing, that no one had kind of capitalized on the opportunity. And so from there we started brainstorming, and we decided to just go for it. I think the hardest part is doing it. A lot of people have a lot of ideas and a lot of cool things they want to start, but it's just kind of that fear of not being successful that holds them back. And so we just said, let's do it. Let's take the step, and we'll learn as we go.
That's awesome. So
how many episodes do you guys have now?
So right now we have 10. The virus kind of threw us into a little bit of a backspin, because, our podcast is Life of the American College Kid. And to be at home now is really difficult to record and have content that is actually that we feel is actually worth putting out.
Okay.
So right now we're in the middle of recording another episode. We're going to call it Zoom University. It's all about being a college kid, quarantined. So we're in the middle of getting that one ready. But yeah, as of now, that only 10 episodes, it'll be 11. And the way we've kind of structured it is in seasons. So next semester will be kind of a season 2 kind of thing. And because we started it in January, it's, still kind of fresh. So we're trying to just figure out how we want to structure the seasons and be able to kind of keep it going.
Yeah, that's really smart, bro, to follow like the school schedule with your seasons, especially if that's the niche that you're going to be going into. And so you said a couple of things that really are great benefits for you. So you've done some research, you've realized that there's not really any other shows or competitors within this niche. That kind of tells us one of two things: either it's a completely blue ocean and it's going to be awesome for you, or there's no market there, right? So maybe people have tried it and it didn't work. But I would say in your case, like you say, podcasting being such a new thing, it's probably a great opportunity for you. And then mentioning that the virus is a complication. So this is actually, this is a really good point, and kind of a foreshadowing of other things that I think will become complications in the future. So if you could try to like think about that in terms of, preparing yourself for other things that may come. Geography, like, are you guys typically recording the episodes? Were you doing it together in your, wherever you lived, if you're roommates, or, now you're having to do it virtually, right? So that's kind of throwing a wrench into things. As you can see, Nathan and I are not in the same place. And so like, this is actually just kind of the norm for us, is doing a virtual show, right?
Right.
So I would say learning the ins and outs of that would definitely stay a
Well,
positive for you. You know what I mean?
I had a couple of questions actually about that exact thing, Corey.
Okay, cool, cool. So real quick, I just wanted to bring it. Actually, I'll ask my other question afterwards. Go ahead, Nathan.
Well, I was gonna say, so when it comes to your podcast, um, what is the message like? So you're hanging out, you got funny stories. So is it entertainment? Is there a message? What is the I get where like so okay, there's no one doing it and that. So what is the value that you're trying to provide for the people that are listening? Like I'm just trying to figure out your motivation on that
Right.
end.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think our main motivation, our main kind of like go to is comedy. I think that's where we thrive. That's where our relationship kind of it just goes well together.
Hmm.
And obviously, if you listen to it, comedians are comedians and we'll talk about stupid things or whatever. But also, one thing I've noticed as I've had it is I've had a lot of people or multiple people reach out to me, people that I don't know and like international people that will message me on Instagram and they say, hey, like I had a guy from, I think it was Sweden or something. And he was like, hey, I'm coming to the States next year for school. Do you have any tips for like a college kid from, Sweden? And so the other part of our podcast is kind of providing an inside like scoop and inside life on what like college life for us is really like, because I think people have, preconceived notions of college life
Okay.
and, how great or how terrible it is, regardless, depending on the stories or where you come from. And
Okay.
so for
So
us, we wanted, to just have a real look on, life here.
okay, and so that's the thing. But what is the so what is the outcome? Because I got a couple of things like because I'm understanding where just a perspective shift that's going to be pretty cool. But I just got a couple of just one more thing is like then what is the outcome for the people that are watching it? Like okay, this is what college life is really like, and this is funny. So it's entertaining. So you're entertaining people, and you're giving them a glimpse of what college life is really like. Why?
Yeah. Okay. That's a good. Um, I think the why would just be entertainment. I think that's the main kind of category our podcast would fall in.
Okay.
Um, I wouldn't say that I have crazy extensive knowledge that people should just listen to me about whatever and anything and believe it. So I think that would be the category that we would put ourselves under because
Okay, so I think that's what you're qualified for in your mind. But why like but then on a deeper why, like as a person, just take all qualifications and stuff. Like you as a person were created from pure potential. You are unique value, right? You are value. You've lived 19 years of a life that no one else has ever lived, right? So you have experiences no one else has seen. You have a unique value. Now, is that life advice? Like, probably not. I'm glad that you understand that. But then I wonder, like, in that 19 years of stuff that's happened, what are some things that, like, your messages that you want to bring? Because you talk about entrepreneurship for a rising generation, right? You talk about what are some of the aspirations you have for the people that are listening to you?
yeah. Um, I think I want people to feel encouraged. One, um, in the kind of life that they're going through. I know that because our audience is targeted towards college kids. I know that there is a ton of struggles and a ton of things and like that you go through as a college kid. You're kind of in this weird period between leaving home and becoming an adult, even though technically you already are, and trying to figure out what does that look like for me. And so as a podcast host and for my podcast, I want people to be able to come and listen and enjoy and hear about the other stupid things or struggles that we go through, so that they can kind of feel that me too sense of, man, I know what you're going through. I want people to be able to relate and really just kind of sit back and listen and laugh and be able to say, man, I get that. I get what you're going through. And just to be encouraged that someone else is out there feeling the
Okay,
same
so
thing.
so you want to so you want to help encourage people to so they can pursue like, so, okay. So I get that you want to encourage people. And I think that the way that you're encouraging people makes total sense. And so I just want to go a little bit deeper because it's going to get hard. And so I want you to have something to hold on to, because this is why you haven't done the episodes you need to do separated when they're more important than ever. Right. And so why is it important for you to encourage people? Because that's not everyone cares. Not everyone cares. So why is it important to you to encourage people?
I think that comes from a personal basis. I think I look at the things that, I've gone through or the struggles that I have from, even from being abroad. I remember how hard it was the first couple months to be away and to be in a foreign country. And to just have that like longing to want to come home. I didn't like where I was, I don't think I liked the person that I was there. And so, I look at that and I think, man, I wish, there was something that I could have gone to, something that I could have related to that would have helped me through this. And, obviously after spending, a good amount of time there, I started really kind of developing myself and coming into, things that I hold now. But it was really hard to get there. I remember coming home for Christmas break over, last year when I was abroad, and I didn't want to go back at all. It wasn't that I hated it. It was just that I felt like I was so broken down from being away. And the things, especially just like the experiences that you were going through, it was just really heavy. And the school that I was at, they kind of called it a pressure cooker. Kind of everything that in your life that is like that has happened is just coming up slowly.
Okay.
And so, after coming back that second semester, when I did come back, I think I really just started developing myself. And I thought, I wish people would give more effort, give more time, because I know that's how it was for me. And so, my situation was a bit different than just the average college student coming out of high school. And I think that's cool. And I think I gained a lot of like experience from that.
So I like where you're going. And so you answered it. And then, so you went through an experience that was transition, like it was a transitional experience in your life. You became a new person as a result of this experience, but you had no encouragement you didn't have the encouragement you needed during that transformation to make it easier to help you understand that on the other side of this is something different. And now it seems like you're starting another transitionary period of your life, this domestic college life, which is still on the other side of the country from your family, which means your own life 100%. But that you're still becoming something new. And it sounds like you're creating the thing that you were missing in your last transitional experience for other people that are about to be going through a transitional experience, to encourage them that there's good on the other side. Let's laugh and get our way through this, because is that accurate at all?
Yeah, I would say, for my lack of words, that's a really good kind of description of what it is.
So then like, that's so cool. And that's where that's a theme that's carrying through. And if you carry that through in your life of I know people are going through a transition, and this is the transition I'm going through. Let me put together some comedy, some entertainment, some things to help people through this thing. That may be something that you continue to do. What I wonder is some people don't care. Why is that? Why do you think you're doing that? Why do you think you're actually taking action to help encourage people through a transition? Why is that important to you?
I feel like I have to like dig deep to really,
You do,
think about why that is.
Take your time.
I think on a more like personal level, I'm the youngest of 5 kids, but the age gap between me and my closest sibling is 4.5, almost 5 years. So I spent all of my high school as an only child. Both my parents work. My dad travels a lot for work. And so having that, starting when, siblings leave the home, you're kind of on your own. You know, when both your parents are working and traveling, you're by yourself a lot. And I think that's kind of where it stems from, is you understand those places of like being alone and not, you know, not having someone to go to, or not having someone to understand the things that you're going through. Because even my siblings, you know, I couldn't talk to them about the things that I was going through because they weren't home. They didn't know what situations were like. And I think that's where it stems. And, you know, I've always felt like I've had a heart for people. I don't know if I could pinpoint exactly where that comes from. But yeah, I think that would be a good starting point. I'm not sure if that answers it, you
No,
know,
it
well,
totally
but
does. It totally does. So there's a couple of things. First, I want to thank you because
Definitely.
my youngest that lives with me is 15 and a half, and and the oldest one's in and out, like kind of moved out, kind of here, and 19, and then 18-year-old's about to go to college. And and for the last year, she's already been having anxiety about being alone
yeah,
and not being with her siblings. And so I hear her anxiety. And so what you're saying about the thing you went through, I know people need that. I know people are struggling with what you're saying. And the fact that that's a motivation to help people feel comfortable and support, do that when they don't have the people that are supposed to be there to support them, because your siblings had a different life at home than you did. Like, is
yeah,
the last one, they raised the other four, then you have this guy. I know, because I got kids. Like, so you're 100% right with how it feels, and you should have felt that way. But then to be like, I want to. So I think there's other levels. But here's what we just uncovered. You have a podcast so that you can help people that feel alone through a transition to have some comfort, some entertainment, and some laughter to get them through the moment so that they can become the person they're going to become on the other side of that, right?
yeah.
So when are your people in college feeling more alone than ever before? I'm so glad you're starting Zoom University, but you understand that it is more important for you guys to be more productive with your content, be shouting out to more people who are alone after they've had all their friends. They've had a roommate for the first time, and y'all were just getting to the point where you liked it. We're just getting to the point where this is cool. Like this is home. This is everything is right here. And then boom, it's taken away, and you got to come back home to where you were just evolving out of. And all kinds of people are feeling that same kind of thing. And so when you know the why that's connected to what you're doing, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so I'm gonna jump in real quick. Nathan, thank you so much for that, bro. And I'm gonna take Brennan out of the crosshairs for a moment. That way, you know, we can actually dive into this market spotlight episode for you, bro. But
I
again,
think that's part
hopefully
of it
that
right
was
there.
that small amount of digging in was is something that we do again when we do coaching for our clients and stuff like that. And we really do want to ask you uncomfortable questions because it's important to uncover those whys. And it's really important to look at what the motivators are. And so I have one more question for you actually is what, like monetization wise, business wise, what is your goal for this podcast? How do you see that actually producing a business for you in the long run?
Yeah. I think in the beginning, you know, we maybe didn't have a ton of aspiration in terms of like monetizing the podcast because we were just trying to create content that was entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, as I've gone along with it and I've started listening to other podcasts and listening to people talking about monetizing their podcasts, and what can come from that, the more interested I've become, because I know that it can be profitable when, you know, when you get to a certain point and you start getting sponsors and whatever. So now I think our goals have changed a bit since when we started. But you know, like I said in the application, it's really hard to find a way to market it to a sense like that you can monetize it, because you have to find companies or find people that are willing to invest in you and what you're creating in order to make money off it. So for me, I really do want to build this to a point where I can start making money. Like I said, I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit, and this is just another thing, another business that I'm trying to work towards
Okay,
making
cool.
it come
So,
positive.
so what I'm hearing is that actually in your mind, you're seeing sponsorships, right? Really as the main way to monetize this podcast, like
Yeah,
sponsorships or advertising, right? Okay. Well, I appreciate and applaud that you're there. Okay. But I just want to offer some other ideas, if you will, because there's many ways for you to
yeah, for sure.
monetize a podcast. Okay. Sponsorships is something I very much considered as well with this podcast. And I've actually steered away from it because I personally feel that it would detract from the content and the value that we're providing, right? If I was to just bring in, I don't know, like LegalZoom or something and say, hey, for everybody that goes to, LegalZoom.com/Corey and Nathan, like you get 10% off. Like that's cool. And yeah, we might get $500 this month for saying that on our show, but is it really offering value to our listeners? And so I just want to give you that frame. Like when I think of sponsorships, I'm always thinking of like, how is it going to impact the people listening? And is it going to add or detract from the show? Now, other ways to monetize your show, you're creating a distribution network, right? And you're creating a community of people that are like-minded. They're all within the same niche. So if the other ways that you could do it is like partnering with people that offer services and products and bringing them on, right, to your show and actually interviewing them and then maybe offering their stuff through some sort of joint venture. That's always something you can do as well. If you wanted to actually create your own products and services, you've already mentioned that people are starting to hit you up from other countries, from other places, looking for advice on maybe if they're coming here to study abroad, like what are some things that they can look forward to and think about. You could actually create like study courses and online courses and programs if you want, right? For that
Yeah,
type of person that would make their transition easier. People would pay for that because there's real value in something like that, especially when there's a whole bunch of unknowns when you're coming out and going to college for the first time. So anyway, I just wanted to throw like a lot of those ideas out there. And I know it's a lot and it's not concrete, but keep your mind open to the idea that there's many other ways to monetize your podcast beyond sponsorships. That all being said, I want to give you this episode and we're kind of running short on time. So let's go ahead.
I'm feeling like a lot of this is the episode though. I'm feeling
You
like
think?
understanding his why and getting in. I'm feeling like there's so much value for people there that is part of the spotlight of what this podcast and what
So then what we'll
Brennan's
have to
about.
do, Nathan, is edit this one up for sure, right? Because you're right. I mean, we are getting gold through these questions. And again, I want to make sure, Brennan, too, that obviously you're comfortable with what we share. We know we've asked you some deep questions. You've been real honest and transparent with us, which is amazing, bro. And we definitely appreciate that because it's necessary, to find those answers. So we'll edit some of that out. But yeah, you're right, Nathan. I mean, we are getting information right now that would be a
So
great spotlight
what do you
where you
think, Brennan?
go
What do you
from
think?
here.
yeah. I mean, I appreciate a good question, something that makes me think and kind of dig deep. I don't mind at all. If anything, I applaud that.
Okay,
Well,
awesome,
here,
man.
so because here's the thing is as a public figure and as the vision that you have going forward, right? As people can connect to you, understand why you're out there, right? No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care is one thing. But if we know why you're doing it, then we can connect and get behind what you're doing. And so if you think, so let's knowing that you've got this thing that you're doing that clearly you were subconsciously driven to do, because it takes a lot of work to even get 10 episodes, to even get
Bro,
three, I mean, to
yeah,
get
I
one,
applaud
let
you on
alone
that.
three.
Podcasting is not easy.
Yeah.
I don't do it. And Corey does all the awesome stuff. I'm just showing up. Like I would never have anything if it wasn't for him. So all that. So subconsciously you've been really driven to do something. And now you've added a connection to why, partially for you, and maybe understanding your buddy, why he's doing it. You know what I mean? If it's just for fun, it's all good, but there's always a deeper reason of why. And so when we know that, so you got this thing you've been doing, but where do you want to, looking at a year from now, where do you want to take that? Where would be like, if you're bringing that back, we know why you're doing it. You've been doing it 10 episodes. How many episodes do you have, or how many downloads you have? What are you judging your metrics by, and what's your vision?
Yeah. So right now we're judging it mainly by listeners. The platform that I use right now is Anchor. That's been a pretty steady kind of, I think from what I've looked at, it's a good startup kind of platform to
Sure.
use.
Yeah.
Um, So right now I've been using the demographics feature, looking at where people are listening, trying to reach different places, and also just the listens. On ours, it doesn't tell you exactly the downloads. I know that is a good measure, but it's not something that we use because we're more at a starter stage right now. So I focus most of mine on listens and people who are reaching out to me. There were certain episodes that I got more kind of listener interaction than others. I'm also looking at, okay, one of the weirdest things was, when we're coming up for the name for the podcast or for that episode, usually we would name it afterwards, find something that was clever, funny in the episode that we think would grab people's attention. And I think that has been one of the biggest, parts of it that we didn't expect. Because some episodes that we thought were really good, had good content, were funny, had way less listens than others that we were like, maybe I'm not sure why people are gravitating towards that. And so being able to look at those kind of statistics and say, okay, this is how we need to phrase things. But a year from now, I want to have probably at least 50 to 60 episodes. I would love to start getting at least 1,000 listens per episode, more reviews, more ratings. Like I said, it's hard to, especially with the audience that we are, going towards. They're not always the most interactive when it comes to ratings and reviews because they don't care. They don't understand how important that is to, the hosts or the platform that they're listening on. But yeah, that would be the goal for us.
Okay. And
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
that's awesome. Number one, you are examining the right metric.
100%.
Engagement and messaging back, and the thing you think is great but isn't, but this is what's great. That is the right metric always as an entrepreneur to be paying attention to, right? So kudos on that. And then the other things are vanity metrics, right? This is what people are engaging with. We can try and make more of that. We can try and engage more of that. So and then of course, and Corey give you all kinds of CTAs and ways to get people reviews because he's got so many reviews. He's got tons of advice on that. But so you said 50 to 60 episodes, 1,000 downloads would be cool, but that's the episodes you're in control of.
Right.
The other part you're not. And so I like that. I mean, that's an episode a week. You know what I mean? And if y'all hang out more, you can do more, right? Yeah. And what is your biggest struggle in doing the podcast right now? Is it edit? Is it product? What is the biggest challenge up for the first 10 episodes?
You mean from what we've recorded?
Yeah, just doing it, the actual doing the work. What's the biggest challenge that you're coming up to, or for the material or whatever? What's your biggest challenge?
Yeah, I think honestly our challenge is external. It's more of finding the time to be able to sit down and do it. I work at school, and I'm an accounting major, so I find myself pretty busy a lot of the time. And it's hard, especially when, my roommate, Jacob, is a completely different major. So our schedules don't really line up. So it's hard to find a time that we can sit down and both kind of, one, brainstorm about what we want to talk about. And then two, actually record it. And then I take care of, posting, writing, anything like that. I do most of that. But yeah, I think that's the biggest struggle for us is finding the time to do it. But I mean, we started getting into a groove, being able, we released episodes every Friday. We're trying to be consistent about when people are listening, but that was definitely a struggle in terms of, the first 10 episodes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Let me jump in real quick. So first off, again, applaud you, dude, for the goals, 50 to 60 episodes by the end of the year. That's a lot of work, man. And I think you guys can definitely get there. Now, I have, a recommendation in terms of time to do it. I totally understand being busy, and I understand you guys have schedules and other lives and things, obligations that you have to, attend to, right? And then plus you're combating with different schedules because there's now two of you involved. Getting, I would say, uncompromising about the schedule for the podcast has got to be a priority. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So for you and your roommate, or, you know, your co-host, like, you guys, you need to have a little conversation. And I'm just coming at this from my perspective, but I would say that you guys would need to have a conversation and really understand that how important this is to the both of you. And that, you know, look, we need to schedule time every single week to be doing this, on a consistent basis, right? And that means I might have to give up something, push some things around. You might have to give up something, push some things around in order to make this happen. So that's just my advice right there. Get very uncompromising with your schedule. And then as far as ratings and reviews, bro, I just want to give you some tips. You could run contests. Okay. So you could tell people that, you know, you're going to give away something, like, and for college kids, I mean, you know, I could think of like gift cards, or, you know, like cool electronic type stuff, something that anybody would want. And I understand there's an investment there, but think about what you're getting for that. So doing some kind of giveaway for ratings and reviews. You could also, one thing that I did to get ratings and reviews for my show early on was getting into a bunch of podcasting groups on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And there's all kinds of groups out there. I can actually link you up with some of them. But there are, you know, there's networks of podcasters that will go in and help each other out, right? We'll all leave reviews for each other. And then you can get 40, 50, 60 reviews right off the bat, just like that. And that will help you with your organic reach. That will help you in all the distribution networks, getting more, you know, exposure for each one of your episodes. And then on top of that, consistency of output. So if you guys are, you know, algorithms look, right? Like, there's a lot of AI involved in how this stuff goes out. So the algorithms are looking for consistency, and they promote those that are consistently putting out content. So if you guys can make sure that you're doing something once a week or twice a week, and then you stay consistent with that, the trend will really start to pick up for you over time. But I wanted to go ahead and, for this last section, I mean, Nathan, unless you have other things you want to ask, I was wondering if we could flip the ball on your court, and if you have any questions, you know, in terms of marketing and strategizing your podcast, we can field those for you.
Yeah, I definitely have a few. For you guys, what platform what podcasting platform, you know, Spotify, Apple, Google, where do you see the most interaction, and do you focus your attention towards like a certain platform in order to get, you know, more listeners?
So that's a great question. I use Simplecast. So you're using Anchor, right? I'm using
Right.
Simplecast as my host, and Simplecast does have a little bit more in depth in terms of you know, the data and the statistics that are coming through, as far as which platforms they're coming from, how many downloads, how many listens, etc. It is a paid service, but in terms of where they go out, this is why I love Simplecast. It made it dumb easy to go out to every platform that's out there, every distribution network out there. You just set them up, you know, boom, boom, boom. You go through the steps. So we're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're on iHeartRadio. We have our own website. Yeah. What's up, Nathan?
Corey, I think, are you asking which network we get the most engagement from?
Yeah, I was
from
going to
the
get there.
audience. Is that what you were asking, or are you asking where he distributes it from?
Where are you getting the most engagement?
Yeah, I was going to get there. So the most engagement definitely comes from iTunes. All right. So iTunes is like the biggest platform. 90% of our downloads and listens come from iTunes, but all of our episodes go out to every one of these platforms, right? So I think right now the only reason why most of it comes from iTunes is because most people that are on iTunes listen to podcasts, right? People that are on Spotify, they're listening to music and they're listening to other things as well. Yeah, they listen to some podcasts, but, you know, it's just like, you got to really think about who's doing what on the different platforms. On iTunes, people are listening to podcasts, and so like that's where most of our downloads are coming from.
So, Brennan, when you talk about engagement, are you talking about as far as comments, reviews, email? Like, what engagement metric are you talking about?
Yeah, you know, I would say reviews, ratings, anything like that. But also, you know, I'm sure you can see it on your platform as well. But, you know, you can see where most people are listening from. And I think
that's what Corey was saying was iTunes for sure.
Right. Yeah. And I think weirdly for me, I found that I have a pretty even split between iTunes and Spotify.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if that's because the people that we're reaching are not normal podcast listeners, because for me, I would never think to listen to a podcast on Spotify. I would always go to iTunes. So, I thought that was pretty interesting, and I wasn't sure if maybe I was,
It could be demographic for sure, because
yeah,
like
Yeah.
the Spotify on my phone is from my kids. Like I don't listen to
Yeah.
Spotify, but they do. So it makes sense that demographic is gonna, and Spotify help. Your generation's always trying to discover. So an app that allows them to discover, and if you're not searching for podcasts.
So one thing I would recommend, bro, is, and I went and listened to your latest episode, is in your, do you have a pre-recorded intro, or do you guys just start? I'm sorry, I forgot.
No, we have, I have a beat that my buddy made just.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's just a quick little beat, and then it goes into the actual
Yeah.
content, right? I would highly recommend recording a pre-recorded intro that has, like, hey guys, please make sure you leave a rating and review, or leave, your biggest takeaway as a review, like a call to action that goes out on every single episode. I'd have it pre-recorded so you don't have to think about it, and pop it in at the beginning. And then I would also have one at the end, an outro for every episode that just gets added on, and again, has a call to action in there. And then whether or not, that's something that can change over time. Right now you're looking for ratings and reviews, so that should be your call to action. In the future, if you're promoting something, or, you want people to go somewhere, you can change that outro, moving forward. But I would highly recommend that you have just something pre-recorded that tells people, go to your favorite, go to wherever you're listening to podcasts at, and let us know what you think of the show, right? Let them know why you want them to do it too. Hey guys, this really helps us out, gain our audience.
That's
We're going to get
huge.
more listeners, stuff like that. The more transparent and honest you are with your community, the more you're going to get from them. But again, I highly also recommend going into Facebook, joining some podcasting groups, starting to really communicate with people that have podcasts out there. Consider bringing on guests to your show. That way you can actually leverage each other's audience. That's a reason why you're coming onto our show, right? Is to leverage our audience, so that hopefully some of the people that listen to our show will come over to your show and listen. If you can do that more, go get on more other podcasts, do guesting, guest podcasting, or bring people into your show and interview them, people that already have an audience, you're going to grow so much faster than just by doing it you and your homie, and then hoping that people find it and listen. Because here's the thing with podcast distribution networks, they're not search engines, right? You go to iTunes and you search for something. It's not like going to Google and searching for something. You go to Spotify, you search for something. Like, these are not search engines. They don't know what you're looking for. You have to actually put in keywords. Like, they have to know the title of your show in order for it to pop up, type of thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So going to other places to garner that listenership and that audience, and leveraging other people's audiences, really is the way that I've grown my podcast so quickly, and how we've gotten to where we're at. So I highly recommend you consider doing some of those things. But dude, I want you to know, like, you were killing it, bro, and you're definitely taking action. We very much applaud the work that you're doing, because it is not easy to start a podcast. It's not easy to stay consistent, and especially when you're doing it with somebody else, the complications and difficulties definitely, they go up. So just commend you on the work that you're doing, bro, and do not stop, for sure.
Yeah.
So go ahead, man. I was gonna ask you. Go ahead, respond to him. And I got a quick question.
Well, yeah, I was going to kind of come back with the question as well. So go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, what I want to say is because we're gonna kind of I can extend my clock a little bit, but what I want to do is kind of get a snapshot. You tell us a little version right now. Describe, in like your podcast, what it is, who it's for, and why they should listen. Like, give us that little spotlight of your version, your sum up currently of that, if you would, your elevator pitch for your podcast.
Yeah, for sure. So Life of the American College Kid. It's targeted towards college students right now in the States, but it's also kind of a flashback at when you were in college, or it can be informational, or, just funny if you want to listen to what you have to look forward to. A lot of people kind of think about college as something that is great and the best years of your life, but you don't really know until you get there. So our podcast is a snapshot of our experiences, what we're going through, things that we find funny, irritating, things that we're going through. And, if you enjoy listening to stories, if you enjoy, hearing about daily experiences from a personal perspective of college, then our podcast is definitely the one to go to, because there's not many others like it.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, man. For sure. All right, bro. You said you had one more question?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've really been trying to navigate, and in the beginning when we were starting it, one of the ideas we had was to bring on guests from other universities and have them tell their experiences so that people could listen. One, that we would have more diversity in like our podcasts, but also if people wanted to know about a specific college, they could listen to that episode.
That's real cool.
Yeah.
But what we've started to notice is that, a lot of the feedback that we get is how much people like the dynamic between us. And, it is a comedic podcast. It is entertainment. And so I think one of the mental barriers to get over with bringing guests on is we want listeners to come in and have the experience that they get every time when they listen. So how do you bring a guest on? And I know you guys get guests on all the time. So I'm sure you have experience.
Yeah, for sure, dude. So that's all that this show is basically interviews with guests. So when I created this show, that was my intention. I wanted to do an interview show, right? So you're coming at it from a little bit different perspective of, we've got this show, it's me and my buddy, and we've got this sort of way that we play off each other and people enjoy that. And I totally get that. You want to stay consistent with that. So in terms of bringing on guests, I love the idea of bringing in different colleges and giving perspective on what's it like at your college? What's it like at your college? What's it like at your college? And I guarantee you, if you do that and you say life at, such and such university, like anybody going to that university is going to listen to that episode, right? So you're starting to get very niche content, and it's a great angle to go at. Now, in terms of keeping it consistent, I would say, don't worry so much about making sure that the experience is always the same. Okay. For one, I know as a listener of podcasts, and if you're familiar with John Lee Dumas and Entrepreneur on Fire, you might understand where I'm coming from. But the first 400 episodes of this dude's podcast are literally carbon copies of each other. And in the beginning, I liked it, right? I was like, oh, this is cool. I know what he's going to ask the next guest. I can kind of be prepared. But after some time, bro, I got bored. And it's just you just know it's more of the same crap, and so I would say don't be so stuck on the idea that every show has to be like the last one. And also the reason why people are telling you that they really love your dynamic with your co-host is because that's all that you've given them, right? You haven't actually given them opportunity to see what it's like to have a guest on the show. They may like that even more. You just don't know right now. So, I wouldn't be opposed to it, just try things, let things go. And here's the other thing too, bro, is if you're not doing these live, then the episode doesn't have to go live, right? You can record an episode. If you guys feel like it's not valuable or you don't like the way that it went, you never have to put it up. It's your show. You're the boss. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I would just say try it.
That's good. That's good. That's really good advice. I would add that when you make a call out to these people at other university, say you're looking for funny motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? Be like, look, watch our show. If you think you can, I don't know what because it sounds like maybe there's a little bit of banter, there's a little bit of back and forth. That's some quick timing, and that's harder to do online and stuff. But hey man, if you're good at talking shit, but you want to show what life's like at your university, we'd like you to come to this. If you're good, you know what I mean? If you do that, what are some of the things? Because you're not I get it. You have to have chemistry, but if you have the right, think about Joe Rogan's podcast, right?
Yeah.
He talks to really brilliant people, and sometimes they'll laugh and they'll joke about things, and you lean in because they're really brilliant. And then sometimes he has his buddies on there, and you get a whole different dynamic in podcast. But we like all of it because we like one of it. Because one is our I like the MMA. I started listening when he started doing his MMA episodes.
Yeah.
Right, and because that's why I followed Joe Rogan. Then I was like, oh, look at all this other stuff. Right. And so yeah, that's maybe what they like most, but they may learn something about the other school if they don't go there. But the people that go to the other school will discover your podcast there and then like the other stuff that you do. So just but make my only addition, that was Corey was saying, my only addition is frame who you're looking for when you make a call out. I don't know how you're making a call out to other universities, but like we don't want somebody who like my old roommate. Like you don't want that dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like who do you want on this?
Bro,
because there's funny people at every university.
Go
you know
into
what I mean?
Facebook groups, dude. Go into Facebook groups I'm sure there's groups for every one of these colleges. There's probably groups for different,
I don't know about on Facebook, bro.
Studies.
I don't. My kids my kids won't even touch Facebook, bro.
What is it? TikTok? I don't know where the kids are at.
Oh,
man.
yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just say it like, cause yeah.
No, but I get you. But listen, Facebook is definitely a resource, if nothing else, to go in and meet other podcasters. And like I said, I'll definitely send you some invites to some groups that I'm in. But you can get reviews and stuff like that as well, and just kind of do some research on what other people are doing, things that you like, you don't like, you bring into your show. But anyways, man, if you got a few more minutes. Do you have any more questions before we have to jump off? I'm sorry we have to jump off, but it's about.
And I'm gonna have one wrap-up question.
Yeah.
What I'm curious for you, I've listened to a few of you guys' episodes before I came on. What was it for you, as entrepreneurs, that kind of flipped the switch to creating a podcast instead of, pursuing other entrepreneurial ventures?
Well, I'll answer that because I actually started the podcast before I even met Nathan. So I'm bringing him in as a co-host for season 2. And that's why I'm literally changing up my whole thing. Right. But here's the deal. The reason why I started a podcast, bro, and this is, I've said this many times in interviews that I've actually done on other shows, but it's because a podcast literally, in my mind, saved my life. Right. It helped me see the truth. It's what actually gave me the courage into going into entrepreneurship myself. So about 6 years ago, I was working, construction, and had been for the last 10 years. I was an electrician. I'm still certified, but, I was doing this electrical work in construction, basically day in, day out, punching my time card. And I was able to listen to podcasts while I was at work because I'd put headphones in and I'd be doing my work, but I would be listening to podcasts the entire time. And I always knew that I was unhappy in my job and unhappy in my role. And I wanted to do something else where I was my own boss. I could work with my mind as opposed to my brawn and, figure out a way to actually do something I enjoy. And bro, just little by little, by just dripping that information and that positivity into my head, I finally had the courage and I came up with ideas and obviously got all kinds of other stuff from it too. But I had the courage to go in and quit my job. And then when I did that, I made that move. I kind of vowed to myself that I have to create a show to help others in the way that these shows have helped me. For me, it's a way to give back. And now obviously it's morphed and transformed a little bit since I got started, but my whole goal with this show is to inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs to go after their dreams, to go after the things that everybody is telling them they can't do, and to actually have the courage to live the life that they want to live. Society tells us to follow these traditional tracks, tells us to do, certain things. Everybody is doing these things. This is what you have to do. And that's not the reality. We all have options in our lives, so I just want to illuminate that through my podcast by sharing the stories of other entrepreneurs that are doing it. And now bringing in Nathan, as you can see, he's just got a brilliant mind for disseminating information and getting stuff out of people that sometimes they wouldn't necessarily be forthcoming with. He's very good at digging in. Right. And so having him on the show now is bringing a new dynamic where it's definitely increasing the value of the podcast. So I'm always looking at it. How can I increase the value for my listeners? But again, the whole idea is to inspire people to go after it. So that's why I started my show.
Cool.
It's awesome. Yeah, man.